Hey, relax. Hey, hey. Can't let him attack those low ankles, right? Good job. This was never my dream, being here at Rutgers. This was never a goal of mine. It was always about Jackson, and I was going to see that through. I grew up wrestling in Jackson Township, recreation, all the way through middle school and high school. I was going to go away to college, Lock Haven University. When I came back, it was to coach at Jackson, and that's all I ever wanted to do. My friends would always make fun of me. You're going to go back there and be a gym teacher. And I would always correct them and say, I'm going to go back and be a physical educator and coach.
I met Scott probably sometime in the late 90s, early 2000, when my son was probably in grammar school. Jackson was a powerhouse. Scott was very well respected. He had the best high school team in the state. They were winning state championships. His kids were winning individual state titles. And I thought Scott was one of the top 2 or 3 best high school coaches in New Jersey.
The one word you could always use to describe Scott was energy. And that was what immediately attracted me to him, was that he had a countless amount of energy. I felt like I finally had met a counterpart that was able to match my energy in the room. I didn't realize that Scott had that energy in the room, out of the room, everywhere.
In 2007, Scott's the head coach at 𝗧𝗵𝗲. They're the #1 ranked team in the state. They had the best wrestler, Scotty Winston, in the state. But not that far down the road, over at Rutgers in New Brunswick, you had a program that was really struggling, and there was rumors that the program could be axed.
The wrestling culture in the state of New Jersey is very fanatical. It's a cult following.
We always kind of scratched our head, and when I say we, I think all the New Jersey residents always wondering why Rutgers University wasn't able to have that type of representation at the collegiate level.
In the 90s, my cousin was the #1 overall recruit in high school, and Rutgers never recruited him. A few years later, Rutgers didn't recruit me as well. So that made me feel like Rutgers wasn't trying to get the best kids, therefore they weren't going to be the best.
I think Rutgers struggled to keep the best kids home. Very simple, based on what they were given from the administration at the time. Coach 𝗧𝗵𝗲 was never given what I was able to get. He was never given a fair shot, there's no question about that.
I was friendly with 𝗧𝗵𝗲. I've met him over the years. He became the athletic director at Rutgers somewhere in the late 90s. And I mentioned to Bob that you have a chance to really have sport that could be a top 10 type of sport with little effort. And it's not going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to need just a little bit of a philosophical change in attitudes. He said to me, give me a plan. Put it in an outline form, send me a letter.
Bill, he just simply asked me, what would you do to make Rutgers wrestling relevant? He basically asked me to come up with a 5-point plan that later he would use to give to Bob. So on a napkin at a restaurant in Bricktown with my wife, we came up with a 5-point plan. It was everything from academics to recruiting to coaching staff to fan atmosphere. I would go on and hand that off to Bill 𝗧𝗏, went on my merry way, and that was it. I never thought for a second it would turn into an interview, and then 3 months later there was a phone call. The 2007-08 season was my first year as a head wrestling coach here at Rutgers. The reason I took this job, it was an incredible challenge. Can I make Rutgers wrestling a national power? We got shut out by Ohio State in our first duel. We got beat by Lehigh. I was not used to losing like that. It wasn't until after the season ended where John and I really started attacking the high schools, the junior highs, anybody that would listen. 256 schools in the state of New Jersey.
that time that we spent recruiting really paid huge dividends because we wound up having the #2 recruiting class in our first recruiting class. Scotty Winston, Danny Rinaldi, Matty Fusco, Joey Langle, I mean, Nick Mendito, Zach Cools. I mean, we had like 18 kids maybe coming in that first class. And, you know, there was some smoke and mirrors there for sure.
I knew from the get-go it wasn't going to be John and I doing this. We were going to need to get a full allotment of coaches. What interested me about bringing 𝗧𝗵𝗲 on this staff was he was the best coach in the country. And I think both John and I were still getting the stigma of we're high school coaches. Well, now we have a 2-time national champ and a world medalist on our staff, so you really can't use that anymore.
Off the whistle, attack. Attack off the whistle. Let's get to the legs first. Let's build our wins right when the whistle starts.
I had seen the progress that Scott and John had made here, so I knew that there was a new passion and a whole new system that was in place.
What a tremendous job Scott has done building up the Rutgers program since entering the Big Ten.
We've had Big Ten Medal of Honor winners. We've had several guys win Big Ten titles. 17 guys were NCAA All-Americans. And in 2019, we had 2 NCAA champions in the same season, Nick Sirianni and Anthony Ashnault.
That third weekend in March 2019 National Tournament weekend was maybe the biggest day, maybe the biggest day in my life, you know, along with getting married to my wife and having 2 incredible kids, and in no particular order.
And the Scarlet Knights did not have a national champion before tonight, and it's RU ×2.
I think that night certainly legitimized everything we talked about. It legitimized that 5-point plan. It legitimized hard work. It legitimized having a vision of what you wanted to do and waking up every day and attacking it every single day. Who's going to be the next guy? So that's the expectations now, and we always wanted to create expectations here.
Kids can come here and they can achieve whatever they want. We want to make it very difficult for an outside school to come in and poach one of our best kids that grows up in our state.